Hello, Erin and Sarit here, and today's video is all about the truth about low-carb diets.
Bum, bum, bum. Let's begin by asking, what is your favorite carb? So, Erin, what's your favorite carb?
Well, first of all, when we started dating, you asked me this, and I thought it was hilarious. What did I say?
I don't remember.
I don't either. That's why I asked you. But I would say my favorite carb now is rice. My favorite fun, not so good for me carb is ice cream. What about you?
Rice. My mom's rice specifically.
Not just any rice. What about like a bad girl carb?
Brownies.
Oh yeah.
And cookies.
If it has sugar,
all of it. all of the dessert.
If it has sugar, yes.
Yes.
So, you know, there's so many things on the internet that you've heard, that you've read about low carb diets or why carbs will make you fat or whatever. The truth about low carb diets, for one, is that they don't work. They might give you some kind of immediate, fast result that is, however, unsustainable, which you may have already learned via experience.
And you know what? If you're watching this video, I guarantee you 100% that you've tried a low-carb diet, just like Erin did and just like I did. And if you didn't, then I need you to comment to this video and say, no, I didn't.
Say, I've never tried a low-carb diet, and also I'm a liar. Great. Okay, now that we get that out of the way. There's no long-term success with low-carb diets, you know, and you may have a fear of carbs. Why would somebody fear carbs? I know I did. I know you were scared of carbs at one point.
So I think the big reason why people are scared of carbs is because, number one, this is what society teaches us, right? It's like, it's this trendy thing, you know, you hear on the internet that, you know, low carb diets are great, especially with the rise of the keto diet, which is another fancy term for a low carb diet. You know, the reason why people are scared of low carb diets, and why I was scared, and I'm sure you were too, is because it's a trend that's going on, right? But we
hear that carbs are the enemy, like carbs will make you fat. That's like the big overall picture of like why people are afraid of carbs.
Right. Here's the thing when it comes to food. If you have too much of anything, or if you don't know enough about something, your chances of achieving weight gain is a lot higher. So for example, for anybody who doesn't have enough information about carbs, not only will they think that carbs are not good, but they will be scared to eat carbs, right? So it is your obligation to, number one, learn more about carbs in order to know how to manipulate them to your benefit. So now we're gonna get just a little bit sciencey about carbs, but we're gonna simplify it in the easiest way possible.
Before you get sciencey, I wanna give an example. So, and I want to give you ease so that you don't fear carbs. Because if you think to yourself, how many times have I ever heard that somebody got fat or overweight because they ate too many blueberries, or because they ate too many sweet potatoes,
or because they ate an apple? So many clients...
2 apples for lunch, not 1. I gained 10 pounds this week.
Yeah.
Never.
Right.
So hopefully that can help you eliminate that fear. It's all about the type and the quality of carbs that you get. And now we can get sciencey.
Number one, intention. And that's what we talked about the first video, right? Like
we have another video on the how to lose weight sustainably and simply. You can check out that video.
When you eat shitty carbs, most likely it's because you're not eating it with an intention. So that's rule number one. Now, you know, not all carbs are created equal. What you need to know about carbs or carbohydrates is that it is an energy source, okay? In nature, we get 2 energy sources, right? Fats and carbs. Fats are what we call slow release energy source, and carbs are a fast release energy source, okay? So basically, when you eat carbs, that energy is going to be available faster for your body than fats, for example. And that's what allowed us to survive for thousands of years, because when a tiger came right across the corner and we had to start speeding up, if we had to rely on fats, we won't be able to move our muscles and we'll die. So carbs give you that instant amount of energy, right?
I want to just take a second to mention, because you're probably thinking, well, what about protein? And when we talk about energy source, we talk about what your body ideally utilizes on a regular basis. Because protein is a building block and foundational for the development of any cell, any tissue that we're made of, your body is not going to use it as an energy source. It uses it as a rebuilding source.
Exactly.
So just to clarify that.
Yeah, so carbs are an energy source and a more readily available for you energy source. So now, just like, what is fat? Fat is stored energy. So if you eat a lot of carbs, okay, in an unintentional fashion, your carbs are going to basically start getting stored as fat. Now, in order for you to eliminate that from happening, there's two things that you need to focus on. Number one, portion control, right? And that's when we talk about intention. And number two, the quality of your carbohydrates. So now, something that happens in our body when we eat carbs is that we get an insulin response, right? It is your job to make sure that you regulate your insulin response as much as possible after you eat a meal that has carbohydrates in it, okay? So there's a few ways to do that. Number one, you want to make sure that your meals are balanced so that you never eat carbs by themselves, okay? So you want to be sure to add protein. That lowers the insulin response. The second thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you are eating carbs that have a lower glycemic index and a lower glycemic load, okay? We're gonna provide you with sheets so that you can refer back to see what are lower glycemic index and a lower glycemic load. But for example, you know, a food that has a higher glycemic index and a higher glycemic load would be a blueberry muffin, okay? Blueberries, on the other hand, have a lower glycemic index and a lower glycemic load because they have more fiber, more water content, and are more nutrient dense. Okay?
And they're also natural. A blueberry muffin is a processed, man-made, edible product,
yes,
not a food.
So one thing to learn about carbs is that if they came from Mother Nature, chances are that they're moderate or lower glycemic carbs. It is the man-made carbs that are very high when it comes to the glycemic index and are processed, like muffins, cake, donuts,
brownies.
Cookies. You know, those are the carbs that make you fat, right? The carbs that don't make you fat are the ones that are naturally sourced, okay? But in order to learn more, just reference to the two sheets that we'll provide to you below.
Now, the bottom line is, because Sarit got sciencey and she's really good at that, but the bottom line is that because carbs are an energy source, if you eat them in a quantity that is in excess or more than what your body needs for the energy it produces that day, it will then turn it into fat, which is a stored energy source. Right? So as Sarit and I are sitting here right now, the primary fuel that we're burning is fat, but we're not burning a lot of energy, right? When you do exercise, the primary fuel that you use is carbohydrates, right? You're not technically using fat as much as a fuel source, but because you're burning more energy, once your body depletes itself of those carbs, it will start using the fat, right? It will turn the fat into a carb, use it as energy. So your body is very good at doing what it needs to do. Now, the only way that you'll struggle with weight loss or that you'll continue to gain weight is, like Sarit said, is when you're unintentionally eating these processed carbohydrates because you normally, when you're unintentional about it, you're also mindless about it, and you're eating them in excess. And when you eat them in excess, you store them as fat, right? So don't eat them in excess. And if you want more help learning how many do I need, you can always reach out to us. We have a Facebook group page. We'll put the link below that for that here too. You know, so the bottom line is really be mindful, eat the carbs that your body is intended to eat from Mother Nature. And
lastly, don't try to eliminate carbs because you're gonna crave them more. Also, as you know, whether we're adults, you know, we still act as like we're kids or babies. If you told your child, don't go and play outside, they're gonna start crying, right? So if you're being told, you know, don't eat carbs, the first thing that you want to start doing is eat all the carbs in the world.
If you're told not to do something, something in us wants to do it even more.
Right. So remember, the intention is, rather than cutting out carbs, make it an obligation to learn what are better for you carbs. Do everything that you can to be sure that as often as possible you stick to eating better for you carbs rather than shitty processed carbs, okay? And be consistent with that. That's how you see results. You need carbs, okay?
Drop a comment below if you learned something new from this video, or you had an aha moment or a light bulb or something resonated with you. We want to hear from you so that we know what to continue to provide you. Aaron and Sarit, checking out.
Cheers.